I never thought I'd be the guy telling a story like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I was married to Emily for about 2 years. Everything seemed perfect on the surface. She was beautiful, smart, got along with everyone, and we had this big wedding planned. Honestly, I thought I hit the jackpot. We had our little fights, but nothing serious. Just typical couple stuff, right? Or so I thought. Looking back now, I realized there were small signs of trouble, but they were so subtle I convinced myself I was overthinking. She'd be on her phone a lot more than usual, but she'd brush it off like I was paranoid or insecure. She'd cancel plans unexpectedly or go out with her friends and come back looking too happy, too secretive. I'd ask her about her day, and she'd just wave me off, saying I was being possessive or jealous. I bought into it because I loved her and I wanted to believe everything was fine. But beneath the surface, I kept catching these little inconsistencies. Her phone would ring late at night, and she'd quickly slip it away or put it face down. I noticed her hiding her phone when I entered the room. Once or twice, I caught her deleting messages or clearing her browsing history. Still, I told myself I was just being paranoid. Maybe she was just a private person or had trust issues, but I never really thought she'd cheat on me. Not with how she always seemed so loving, so devoted. Then came the night I found the first real sign that something was off. I was working late at the office, and Emily was supposed to be out with her friends. I decided to check her phone because something felt weird. I know, trust should be the foundation, but I couldn't shake this gnawing feeling. So I sneakily unlocked her phone, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There were messages, nothing too explicit at first, but enough to raise questions. Flirty comments, teasing remarks, and a lot of "can't wait to see you again," along with emojis that looked pretty suggestive. She'd been texting someone named Mike. I didn't know a Mike in her life, but the tone was unmistakably intimate. My heart hammered in my chest. I felt cold and furious at the same time. How long has this been going on? Was I blind? Did I miss all the signs? I didn't confront her that night. I just put the phone back and went to bed, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. I remember lying there, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what I had just seen. How could I have missed this? How could she keep such a thing from me? It was like I'd been living in a fog, pretending everything was perfect when it was anything but. I was furious with myself for not noticing sooner, for not seeing the cracks forming. But mostly I was devastated. I loved her, and I felt like I'd been betrayed in the worst way possible. The next morning I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed answers. I was angry, hurt, and pretty damn confused. I decided I would talk to her that day, confront her outright. I didn't want to let it simmer anymore. I needed to hear her lie, or better yet, tell the truth. I wasn't naive enough to think she'd come clean without some drama, but I was prepared for whatever she'd throw at me. When she woke up, I could see she was already on edge, maybe sensing something was wrong. I kept my tone calm but firm. I told her I knew about her messages with Mike. Her face immediately twisted into this defensive, bitchy expression, like I'd just accused her of murder or something equally heinous. She rolled her eyes, scoffed, then said, "Oh, really? You're accusing me of cheating based on a few texts. You're so paranoid, you don't have any proof." I showed her the phone, and her eyes flicked to the screen, then immediately fluttered away. She tried to brush it off, claiming it was just some stupid flirtation, that Mike was just an old friend and I was overreacting. She even had the nerve to say, "You're just insecure. Maybe if you weren't so controlling, I'd feel more comfortable." That one stung, because that's when I realized this wasn't just a mistake, this was her lying and trying to gaslight me. She was turning everything around, making me feel like I was the one losing it. I lost it. I started yelling, telling her how I'd seen the texts, how I'd noticed her secretive behavior. For months, how she'd been sneaking around behind my back. She just crossed her arms and looked at me with that bitchy smirk like she was enjoying the power. Her words cut deep. "You're overthinking it. You're crazy if you think I'd cheat on you. Mike's just a friend. You're seeing things that aren't there. Maybe you should get checked. Sounds like you're the one with issues, not me." Her attitude only made me angrier. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and honestly disgusted. Here I was, thinking I was building a life with someone who loved me, And meanwhile, she was out there lying, sneaking around, probably having sex with Mike. And it wasn't just a one-time thing. I found out later they'd been sneaking around for months. Months I was clueless. All those moments I thought she was just busy or stressed, she was actually with someone else. It was like my entire world was crashing down. I knew one thing for sure: I couldn't stay with her after this. Not after she lied so blatantly, dismissed my feelings, and turned everything into some sort of twisted joke. But I also knew I needed to be smart about this. I wasn't going to storm out and burn everything. I had to get proof, plan my next move carefully. Still, in that moment, all I wanted was to shake her, make her admit everything, and then walk away. I felt like a fool for trusting her, for believing she was different. When you're blindsided like this, it's like you're not even in your own body. Your mind is just racing, trying to catch up with the betrayal. After the confrontation, I spent the rest of that day numb. I couldn't focus on anything else. My mind kept circling back to everything I had missed, the signs I ignored, the times I'd brushed off her strange behavior because I didn't want to believe she could do something like this. I felt like a fool, and honestly, I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. How could I have been so blind? That night, I decided I needed more proof. I couldn't just go on her word, especially after she'd lied so effortlessly. So I started digging. I installed a keylogger on her phone, something I'd never thought I'd do, but desperation makes you do stupid things. I also set up a fake email account and started tracking her email and social media activity, hoping to catch her slipping up again. It was a strange, almost obsessive process, but I needed to know exactly how deep this went. Over the next few days, I discovered even more. There were countless texts, more explicit than I initially saw. She was talking about their sex life, about how she loved the thrill of sneaking around, about how she couldn't wait to see him again. I found messages where she called him her favorite person, her secret escape, and even some where she joked about how her wedding dress would be the last thing she'd wear before running off with him. I felt sick reading all that. It was like my heart was breaking all over again, knowing she'd been lying right to my face for months. Meanwhile, she kept up her act, acting like everything was normal. She'd come home, pretend to be so loving and innocent, but I could see through it. She was colder toward me, more bitchy, like she resented me for catching her. I'd see her glance at her phone when she thought I was looking, or she'd make little snide remarks when I asked how her day was. The worst part was that I was still trying to hold on to some shred of hope that maybe she'd come clean, that she'd admit everything and we could somehow fix this. But deep down, I knew that wasn't happening. The betrayal hit so hard I started questioning everything. Did I ever really know her? Did she ever love me? All those promises, all those I do's, they suddenly felt meaningless. I spent sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, trying to find some sign I missed. But the truth was, I was blind, completely blind. And now I was left with this terrible reality. My wife, the woman I loved, had been cheating on me with my best friend, Mike, for months. And all this time I was just walking around, trusting her, giving her my love while she was out there sneaking around, having sex with him, lying through her teeth. I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to decide what to do next, but I also knew I was at a crossroads. I could confront her again with everything I'd found, or I could just walk away and cut my losses. Either way, things would never be the same. I felt like I was caught in this nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I was angry, heartbroken, and completely lost, wondering how I'd ever rebuild any sense of normalcy after this. All I could do now was prepare myself for what was coming and figure out how to get through it. The day I decided to confront her again, I was filled with a mix of rage and heartbreak. I knew I had enough evidence now, the messages, the secret meetings, everything. I needed her to face it, to admit what she had done, and to see how deeply she'd betrayed me. I didn't want to just walk away without her knowing I had all the proof. That was important for me somehow. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some naive fool. She'd pushed me to the edge, and now I was ready to fight back. I waited for her to come home from work, trying to keep my nerves in check. When she finally arrived, she looked annoyed, like she knew I was up to something. Her bitchy attitude was worse than ever. She came in, threw her purse on the table, and said, "So what now? Are you finally gonna accuse me of something more serious?" I looked at her cold and steady and said, "No more lies. I know everything, Emily. I've seen the texts, the emails, the secret meetings. You've been sleeping with Mike for months. You lied to my face every day, and I'm done pretending I don't see it now." Her face twisted into this look of pure contempt. "You're crazy," she snapped. "You're just jealous. Mike's just a friend, you're overreacting. Maybe you should get some help because this is all in your head." I lost my patience then. I pulled out my phone and started reading some of the messages I'd saved. I played her the recordings I'd made of her whispering to Mike, telling him how much she loved him and how she hated the idea of me finding out. Watching her crumble in that moment was almost satisfying, but mostly it just made my stomach turn. I saw her panic, her trying to deny everything, and I knew I had her cornered. She finally broke down, her bitchy mask cracking just enough to reveal the truth she'd been desperately trying to hide. She screamed, "Fine. Yes, I cheated, I fucked him, I lied, I did everything. But you don't understand, I was bored, I was unhappy, and he made me feel alive again. You're just a boring, controlling husband. You never paid attention to me, and when I finally found someone who did, I couldn't resist. It's your fault for not being enough." That hit me like a punch in the stomach. Her words cut deep, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. At least she was admitting it. But the pain was overwhelming. I thought I knew her, thought I loved her, and now I was faced with this cold, bitchy woman who'd been lying and cheating behind my back. The trust was shattered beyond repair. I didn't even know who she was anymore. I told her to leave, that I wanted her gone, and she threw a fit, shouting all kinds of blame and insults. But I didn't care anymore. All I could think about was how I had given her my heart, my trust, and she'd just thrown it all away like it was nothing. I felt empty, broken, and furious at the same time. I realized that this betrayal wasn't just about her cheating. It was about her lying, her manipulation, and her complete disregard for everything we'd built together. And honestly, I didn't know if I'd ever be able to forgive her or trust her again. After she finally left, I sat alone in the living room for what felt like hours. The silence was deafening. My mind raced through everything. The moments I thought were normal, the times I dismissed her strange behaviors, all those little signs I ignored because I wanted to believe she was loyal. Now, looking back, it's clear she had been sneaking around for months. I felt like a fool. How could I have missed all the obvious signs? The secretive texts, the late nights, her strange attitude, that bitchy smirk when she thought I wasn't looking. I was overwhelmed with a mixture of emotions: rage, sadness, betrayal, and a deep sense of loss. I kept asking myself if I could ever trust her again, if she was capable of genuine remorse, or if she was just trying to manipulate her way out of the mess she'd created. The worst part was realizing I'd wasted years on someone who didn't really love me, who had been cheating behind my back while pretending everything was fine. I felt humiliated and angry at myself for being so blind. I knew I had to decide what to do next. I could try to fight for the marriage, but honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted that. Trust was broken beyond repair, and no apology or explanation could fix what she'd done. I also knew I couldn't keep living in this lie, pretending everything was okay when it was. So I started planning my next move, thinking about lawyers, living arrangements, and how to protect myself emotionally and financially. It was a lot to process, and I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff. In the days that followed, I began reaching out to friends and family, telling them what had happened. Some were supportive, others told me I should fight for her, that maybe she was just confused or feeling trapped. But I knew deep down this was about more than just a mistake. It was about a fundamental breach of trust. She lied for months, played me like a fool, and I wasn't going to be the one to fix this. The decision was clear. I had to walk away, no matter how much it hurt. I also realized that I had been putting her first for so long, trying to keep the peace, ignoring the warning signs. Now I saw things differently. I needed to rebuild myself, to focus on healing, and to learn from this nightmare. I learned that trust is fragile, and once broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. I learned that some people, no matter how much you love them, just aren't worth the pain they cause. And I learned that revenge isn't about hurting her. That's just a part of the process. The real revenge is walking away stronger, smarter, and more aware of what I deserve. Now, I'm in the process of moving on. It's not easy. Every day is a battle between anger and acceptance, but I know I'll come out of this better. I've learned a lot about myself, about the importance of boundaries, honesty, and not ignoring the red flags. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone in a similar situation, it's this: trust your gut. When something feels off, don't dismiss it, because once someone crosses that line, it's nearly impossible to go back. And the best revenge, living your life without them, knowing you're better off without the lies and betrayal. Looking back, I realize how much this whole ordeal has changed me. At first, I felt like I was just another victim, crushed by betrayal and lies. The anger was overwhelming, and honestly, I was consumed by it. But slowly, I started to rebuild my sense of self. I cut off all contact with Emily and Mike, blocked their numbers, and focused on healing. I threw myself into work, spent more time with friends who supported me, and even went on a few trips alone to clear my head. It wasn't easy, but each day got a little better. I learned that trust, once shattered, isn't easily repaired. Sometimes, the pain of betrayal stays with you for a long time, but it also teaches you to be more cautious, more aware. I've become more skeptical, but also more protective of my heart. I don't rush into relationships anymore, and I take my time to really get to know someone before I let them in. That's the only way I can prevent myself from getting blindsided again. Most importantly, I've realized that revenge isn't about hurting her anymore. It's about reclaiming my life and dignity. Walking away was the hardest thing I ever did, but it was also the best thing. Now, I see it as a form of liberation, finally freeing myself from the chains of her lies. I've learned that I don't need someone who doesn't value me, who cheats and manipulates just to satisfy their own selfish needs. I deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect, and I won't settle for less. If there's a lesson to take from all this, it's that sometimes life throws you the worst betrayal just to teach you your worth. It hurts, it's humiliating, and it feels like your world is falling apart. But in the end, you come out stronger. You learn to see the red flags sooner, to listen to your gut, and to walk away when something isn't right. Because the truth is, no one should tolerate being lied to or cheated on. And most important of all, you have to remember that you're better off without someone who doesn't see your value. So I'm here now, single, healing, and slowly moving forward. I don't dwell on the pain anymore, but I do remember it as a reminder of what I went through and what I refuse to accept in my life again. I know I'll be okay, and someday I'll find someone who truly values me. Until then, I focus on myself, on building a life I can be proud of. And that's enough.